Hello again to this video clip series, my journey to God in a very secularized world. I'd like to just finish up very briefly, just simply that we've been talking about in the last several video clip series of this strategy of the devil to gently lead us away from God, and so on, in particular to make it forbidden to speak about sin in the church and in the world. Which is the only thing that can take us to hell, is sin. And because today, there is less prayer than ever before, and more sin than ever before, and even worse, indifference, as if sin no longer exists. And so we have given much greater power to the father of lies, Satan. In particular, Satan has more power to disguise himself as an angel of light, because we don't pray, to offer his very deadly, beautiful lies as if they were the truth of God. And the truth of God says us free, but not of the devil or the world. Thus, it is very important in these times of great confusion, when even Catholic bishops are no longer in agreement about the fundamentals of our faith and morals, to not only pray much and to study the Catechism of the Catholic Church for adults, but to keep our eyes open so as not to fall into the beautiful lies of Satan, presented as if they were the truth. That's the main reason for this video clip series and my articles that you're more than welcome to read and look at, or whatever you want. I would like to now begin a new topic here of the great importance of maintaining humility and reverence before God. As you read in the whole Bible, in the lives of the saints, or anything else, I'm talking about, as you well know, communion, the Holy Eucharist. And you can find what I'm talking about here in an article that I wrote called The History of Communion in the Hand, that I wrote in 2016. What had happened was that at a certain point, I wrote this article to my parishioners of a small parish where I was living, a small parish, because by then the bishop had taken away my bigger parish, but I still had a small little parish. And so I printed out the following for my parishioners. I printed out this. I wrote to them, "Dear brothers and sisters," for my parish. I says, "After spending more than an hour each day before the infinite God in the tabernacle since January 2001, and after having meditated and studied much of the documents of the Church and the writings of the saints and popes and several bishops, in my conscience before God, I can no longer offer the most blessed sacrament in the hand to people, but only on the tongue." And then I wrote also, "Below you will find a history of the communion in the hand with some excerpts of the documents and of saints and popes and several bishops who have convinced me of this decision." And then I continued, I wrote, "Therefore, if a person or more who comes to Holy Mass, let's talk about for the Mass here, which I only offered once a month, actually, this month here at my parish of Antria, it comes forth to receive Holy Communion and is not willing to receive the most blessed sacrament on the tongue from Father Joe, as did someone the month before, they kind of rebelled a month ago, before, and is not willing to go to another parish instead of here at Antria, where I am, to try to receive the most holy sacrament in the hand," I wrote, "I will be forced to no longer offer the gift of my free service of the monthly Holy Mass at Antria, as I have done for many years here at Antria. Ask your parish priest, Don Edilio, for other Holy Masses at Antria. Since I was taken away my parish, even here where I lived, Antria, I was not officially the pastor, And so I thank God for that, because then I could just stand up only for God, and if I lose everything, no problem. I won't celebrate the Mass anymore for you. And I might just add that after printing this out and writing it, the people at this little parish, they all decided to receive it in the tongue. So they didn't make a big farce because it was a little parish, and so everybody went along with it, at least for at that moment. So now I'll continue with what I printed out for this little parish where I celebrated Mass only once a month. As I said before, the title is The History of Communion in the Hand. And here's what I wrote. It says, here's how the new way of communion in the hand was promulgated in the church. This was written in Vatican City. In the 16th century, the Protestant reformers, in their new Christian cult, reestablished communion in the hand to affirm their two fundamental heresies, that there did not exist the so-called transubstantiation, and the bread used was ordinary bread. In other words, they argued that the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist was only a popish superstition, and the bread was just simple bread, and anyone could handle it. This is what I'm writing to them. This is what the Protestants promulgated. In addition, they claimed that the minister of communion was not indeed different in his nature from the laity. Instead, it is on the contrary, the Catholic teaching that the sacrament of holy orders gives man a spiritual power, sacramental. It imprints an indelible mark on his soul and makes him substantially different from the laity. This is the teaching of the Church. In contrast, the Protestant minister is a common man who leads the hymns, gives sermons in order to affirm the convictions of the believers. He cannot change the bread and wine into the body and blood of our Lord. He cannot bless, he cannot forgive sins, he cannot, in a word, do anything that any layman could not do. That's the Protestant Church. I continue in what I gave to it. He therefore, the Protestant minister, is not a vehicle of supernatural grace. The reestablishment of the Protestant communion in the hand was a simple way to express refusal to believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, rejection of sacramental priesthood, in short, to deny the whole of Catholicism. From that point on, communion in the hand acquired a meaning clearly anti-Catholic. It was a blatantly anti-Catholic practice founded on the denial of the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and of the priesthood. After Vatican II, in the Netherlands, some Catholic priests of the Protestant mentality began to give again communion in the hand, mimicking the Protestant practice. After 400 years of, after the Protestants broke away. But some Dutch bishops, instead of doing their duty and condemning the abuse, they tolerated it and thus allowed the abuse to continue unchecked. The practice spread then to Germany, to Belgium, to France. But if some bishops seemed indifferent to this scandal, much of the laity at that time were outraged. It was the indignation of a great number of faithful who pushed Pope Paul VI to take the initiative to probe the opinion of the bishops of the world on this issue, and they voted unanimously for maintaining the traditional practice of receiving Holy Communion on the tongue. It is also necessary to note that at that time, the abuse was limited to a few European countries, so much so that it was not yet started in the United States and Latin America. Pope Paul VI then promulgated, May 28, 1969, the document Memoriale Domini, in which he stated, verbatim, "The bishops of the world are unanimously opposed to communion in the hand. It must be observed this way of distributing communion, that the priest must put the host on the tongue of the communicants. Communion on the tongue does not take away dignity in any way from those who receive Holy Communion. Every innovation can lead to irreverence and profanation of the Eucharist, as well as gradually corroding the correct doctrine. The document also stated, the Supreme Pontiff judged that the traditional and ancient way of administering communion to the faithful must not be changed. The Apostolic See therefore strongly urges bishops, priests, and the people to observe zealously this law. I'll stop here and continue in the next video clip. May God bless you and Mary guide you.